Hey everyone. Today we're going to take a step back in time and look at what is, in my opinion, one of the best phones ever made, the Sony Ericsson Xperia Play. The version I got was from Verizon. I had this phone back in 2011, I want to say. I bought it when it first released. We had heard rumors that it was going to be the PlayStation phone, uh, kind of like a portable PSP or Vita. Um, and I was extremely excited about it. I was a huge Android fan back then, and could not wait for this phone to launch. A couple of quick specs on it. It had a 1 gigahertz Qualcomm Snapdragon processor. It had an Adreno 205 GPU. It has a 4-inch TFT display that was 854 by 480 uh, pixels and could produce 16 million colors. Um, it had half a gig of RAM, it's 512 mega RAM, and 400 megabytes of internal storage. And we'll get back to that in a minute because that was what I believe was the Achilles heel of this phone and pretty much killed it. It could support a micro SD up to 32 gig. I have a 16 gig in mine. Look at this phone. Mm, mm, mm. Man, I love this phone so much. It fits so well in the hand. It had this nice curved back, shoulder buttons, you see. Great controls, beautiful screen. Let's go ahead and unlock it. A sweet unlock. Look at that. Oh, I love it. Obviously, I'm huge into emulators, so I have mine loaded up with a whole bunch of the emulators that were kind of popular back in the day. This was before RetroArt was a thing, so we had these individual emulators for various systems. One of my personal favorites being the 2600. Load up a game like, well, something like Atlantis. Atlantis is good. Oop, I didn't like the save state. All right, look at that. These controls were great. I mean, they feel so good. And it has these, the analogs are like these digital, like a digital touch pad. Had your start and select buttons. So it had everything you needed to run emulators up to about, you could play some PlayStation 1 games on it back then. Had good audio, said great screen, uh, just so many good emulators on this thing. But what killed it was the storage. I spoke about that a second ago. Uh, Back in 2011, Android, pretty much any title you installed on it had to put some amount of that storage on the internal storage, and not all programs could be shifted over to the SD. A lot of your stuff could, so you could put your music on there. You could put your like your Audible, your books on there. I could put all my ROMs on there. Some of the programs could be shifted over to that, to your SD card, but you depended on having a decent amount of internal storage back then to make your phone usable. And Verizon, in their wisdom, put these large games on here like Bruce Lee Dragon. There were a few others that were on here that you couldn't remove. There was a sports game on here, I recall. I'm not seeing it at the moment. I probably scrolled right past it. But yeah, there was a big sports game on here, and a couple of others that you couldn't remove them without some hack. Like you could root it and you could get some of them off, but there was still lots of remnants left behind, and it just ended up killing the device because you just ran out of storage so fast. You just really couldn't put hardly anything on it. Fortunately, there was enough room for me to be able to fit my emulators on, so I was pretty much covered. So at least I could play all my emulator games. That was great. Minecraft ran pretty well on it back then. But yeah, just an amazing device. Even things like Neo Geo. Oh wait, no, this was Neo Geo Pocket. Never mind. Still not a bad system. Not a bad system. Not laughing at it. But that's not Neo Geo. I think the Neo Geo. Yeah, there it is. Neo. I thought I had Neo Geo on here. So place it into combat. I mean, having this in your pocket on your phone in 2011 was the coolest thing. I don't need that weapon. The shuriken are better anyway. I mean, you could play so many good arcade games. Everything up to the 16-bit consoles ran perfectly great. Let's see that. So good, so good. But yeah, that's just a quick look at the again, what I consider to be probably the greatest phone ever made, and it's a real shame that they did not make more of these phones. I mean, I could have easily seen them continuing this line of phones for quite a while, continuing to update the specs, keep the controls. The controls were perfect. There was absolutely nothing wrong with them. Maybe make it a little bit larger, but I actually liked this small phone. I mean, it was super comfortable, fit well in your pocket. I mean, obviously for modern phones, you'd want better cameras and all that, which of course would add bulk. Oh, another thing about this phone, if you remember from phones back then, you could actually take the back off. So not only is this phone incredibly small and sleek, has everything you would expect in a smartphone, plus controls built in, and it had a battery that you could get to, and you could swap the SD card in it, very easily. I mean, just incredible. It's hard to believe that we had this in phones back then, and I almost feel like in a lot of ways we've kind of gone backwards. But anyway, that's a quick look at the Sony Ericsson Xperia Play.